this is Kicking the Tires. I'm Mason. I've got with me today Luke.
Hey.
Blake.
How's it going?
And our special guest, Tommy Gavin.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Well, let's start this off like we do with every special guest we got. Tell us about everything you got, or what you've had in the past and stuff like that.
Well, let's see. First Mustang was a 70 Mach 1, 351 Cleveland, 4-speed. And like a good teenager in high school, I ripped a couple drive shafts out of it and some U-joints and burnt the tires off of it a couple times. And then graduated high school. I had a 78 Cobra 2, 302 4-speed. I did a lot of cruising in it. And then I got into the custom van scene and when I got in a couple years later and showed a van in the Carl Casper show several years. Then life and kids took over, and then retired from the military. And then 2 years ago, I bought my third Mustang and joined the Derby City Mustang Club in 2020. And that was a EcoBoost, beautiful car. And I traded in on my current car, a 22 GT, Shadow Black, and definitely a little bit difference in power between EcoBoost and a GT, just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you've been a little bit everywhere, so that's a big thing.
Yep. Yeah. So it's all kinds of different cars. Just love cars in general, and you can work on the cars. When I was in high school, you can't hardly work on them yourself anymore, other than change the oil. We changed engines on the side out of the house, out in the street. We did brake jobs out on the street. We dropped transmissions on our chest under the car and slid them out from under the car, and and that's what you did back then. You did, or your buddy had a garage. You take it to his garage, you pull the engine out, and you work on it, and then you put it back together. So that's just the way it was.
Well, and you mentioned two things that I'm sure neither of my buddies here have ever dealt with, and that's the van scene, which even I didn't know that was a thing until a couple of days ago, and then Carl Casper. I mean, kind of give a little bit of a story on that, because I know what Carl Casper is, but I'm not sure if they do or if, like, anybody that listens.
Yeah, so
he's that friendly ghost, right?
Yeah, exactly. Back in the 70s, the custom van scene was real popular. I had a big E150 custom van. It was all decked out, University of Kentucky. Beautiful pearl white and blue and everything else. And had a van club that I was a member of. Ironically, the name was Derby City Vans. And we'd go around. We'd go on the weekends, go little camping trips. We'd go to car shows. And Carl Casper was the big one in Louisville. If you're familiar with Bluegrass World of Wheels today, the show that's been the past couple years at the fairgrounds, that's kind of like the new Carl Casper in a way. They're trying to regenerate a large show in the Louisville market. But Carl Casper was like the show to come to if you were a car show enthusiast or a car enthusiast at all. It was like, hey, you get in a Carl Casper show and you've done something. So it's like you get in there and it's like you were good to go. So that was a great show to be in.
Yeah, our generation missed out on that big time.
So as far as like a custom van, what kind of stuff do you do to customize it? Like you just put like a nice interior in it? Is like the sound system, like?
Well, it's a little bit of all of that. Mine, of course, it was UK themed. It had a hardwood floor in it, like a basketball floor. It had blue wraparound button tuck couch. It had captain's chairs with the big UK paw prints. And of course, they pivoted. Had at that time, a 6-speaker sound system back then, and a CB radio was big in the 70s, so we had CB radios, and that's how you kept in touch with other, because we didn't have cell phones. So you either stopped at a payphone or you called them on the CB radio and said, hey, what's going on? And that's how you kept in touch with everybody. But yeah, a little bit of everything. I did some engine work, chrome headers, and put a bigger cam, and just made it mine and made it loud. Got to have it loud if you're gonna have a performance.
Inside and out, right?
Got to have inside and out. That's exactly right. You want to hear them coming, whether you're parked or moving. So, so that's just the way it is. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So it's kind of an interesting pivot. You went from the custom vans back into those Mustangs, and so what made you get your new one?
Well, it's kind of I was at the Ford dealer. I had a 2012 Focus that had several Focuses. I was getting it serviced, and I was waiting, and I was walking around a lot just kind of looking. It's like, I've always wanted a Mustang. So I walked over to the used car area, and they had a yellow 18 EcoBoost, and they had a 19 GT. But there was like $400 difference in the car payment between the EcoBoost and that GT, and plus the EcoBoost had more features on it. So I was like, I'll go ahead and go for the equipment. So I bought the car on, of all things, 9/11 of 2020. So that's the day I bought that, and the wife's been mad at me ever since. You know?
So you decided to double down then? With the new one.
Yes, and she, in fact, she was the first one to drive the new one. We went to the dealer, saw the car. She goes, "You know what you want? Just get it, do the paperwork, we'll sign, and we'll go." So she was the first one who drove the car off the lot, and now it's been a year this month. I've had my new one. So
How many miles you put on it?
I've got still under 9,000 miles.
Oh, there you go.
I daily drive it to work, go to car shows. We do cruises and things like that. And but it's a short commute to work. It's only 12 miles right downtown Louisville, so it's an easy drive from where I'm at. So it's
Now, going to a car show with a daily driver is a bit of a different beast than a lot of people who have these classic cars or other cars that they don't daily drive.
it is. It's depending on the show. You know, you get judged different at different size shows. Different size shows depending on who's putting it on. But for the most part, you know, if they have different categories, daily drivers are a little, they're in their own little category because you drive them every day. They get rock chips. You can do so much touch up to them to make them look nice and keep them clean. But you got to understand, it's like, this is my daily driver. I go to work every day. So it's like different when you have someone that has one, like you said. It's like, it's in my garage. I drive it on the weekends, or I trailer it to a big show. Yep. It's a big difference, and that's why they're in different categories. So it's tougher to keep a daily driver looking new because you drive it every day. So,
Yeah, any tips or tricks you do to make it? Do you follow the clear bra? Do you do that kind of stuff? Or
I've been wanting to do that, but that's one of those. They're not expensive, but they're not inexpensive. So it's like you do what you can, but I do a lot of self-care, keep it clean, some spray on ceramic coating. I do a lot of vacuuming out of it.
Yep.
I keep extra towels and stuff on top of my custom floor mats so they don't get worn out. And I probably wash it every weekend.
Well, you know, that's a big thing. I mean, if you're going to daily drive a show car, in a sense, it's just like whenever I first started with that little maroon car and it was the only one I had. It drove me nuts going to a show and saying I had a daily driver because they all would act like, no, there's no way that's your daily. But you can ask them. I drove it to high school every day unless it rained.
Yep.
I was going all the time in that car.
you also got special parking for that thing.
Yeah, I did. I had the right connections.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was the thing. You take and make sure, instead of letting it set for 2 months before you go to the next show, it's like you said, you're going out every week and you're washing it, or you might go out one night and dust down the interior. It's not let's take and wait until the show's the next day to clean it up. It's let's do a little bit here, a little bit there, and, you know, you'll have an immaculate car. And it's, to me, going to shows, when somebody says that I daily drive this car, I put, say, 1,000 miles on it a week, then, you know, that guy, to me, if his car's as clean as the guy that's got one that's trailered in, he's doing a lot more work, and he's got a lot more pride in what he's got. He's not scared to drive it. He's going out and he's enjoying it every day.
Yep. Yeah, it's tougher to keep a daily driver, to like you said, to be a show car, because it is a competitive field, whether people like to admit it or not. People are out there and they love to show their cars, and people will tell you, I'm not here for the trophies. Well, they get the trophy, their face lights up.
Yeah.
You know, they're excited, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But to your point, you got to work harder to keep a daily driver to be looking as good as the trailered in car, so you can be, your car gets a fair shake when you're at a show. And it's a lot of hard work.
In which I know you've went to a few of them, but like for guys like us that drive the Mustangs, there's the Mustang Club of America national shows that happen every year. And if you ask me if there's any class that's judged harder than anybody, it's probably the daily driver class, because you got some guys out there that are diehard guys that are going to, like, I know Camus Glover from Fall City.
Yep.
He'll drive from here to California and go a longer distance than really what he needs to see other things. Right. And he'll have that car looking like it just ran off the showroom floor.
He always does.
And that's a guy that's really got the passion for this kind of stuff. More passion than I probably got.
Yeah. we got a guy in our club's got a 2020 Shelby GT500, and he goes a lot of MCA shows. In fact, I think he's in Melbourne this week. The Melbourne show was this weekend in Melbourne, Florida, and several of our members went down there. they do a lot of national MCA shows. So they travel everywhere. They go to Oklahoma, they go up to Buffalo, they go to Florida, they go to North Carolina. I mean, they travel everywhere. And but it takes a lot of work to keep them going.
Well, and you just got started in that, right? With the indie show that just came up here
Yep.
last 2 months ago, I guess.
Yep, very fortunate. Went to my first MCA show up in Indianapolis. It was a beautiful show. I was fortunate to get a gold in my category, so I did well. So, it's a whole different experience when you see how all the classes are broke out and how they judge the different cars in the different classes. You see a lot. It's kind of eye-opening in a way because you see things you don't see at your little local shows. You see a whole different side of the car experience and the car judging and everything that goes with it. It's like, wow, it gets pretty intense to compete in some of those categories with some of those cars. So,
And really, to have that many categories, you have to have enough of a turnout in the first place. Because I know with like a lot of the local shows where you don't have but 100 cars, you get more in the few categories, and it's like, well, that's the only person in that category. Here's your trophy. You know? So it's like,
exactly.
it's kind of a double-edged sword, where it's like you would like to be able to separate them out more, and then sometimes you get like smaller shows. Say you have like a 65 coupe and like a 2020 Mustang. Which one do you how do you judge that?
That's the shows that tend to have a little bit of a problem for me. And, that's one of the big things that I like with my show that I put on every year. I'm big on let's try to find as many ways as we can diversify this to bring in more people because, it's like he said earlier, there's guys out there who tell you, oh, I don't want a trophy, but as soon as they get it, it's like they're a little kid that just got told they could have anything they want in the candy store.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, that almost kind of, and I don't know, I guess that's a little bit of the show scene today, but a lot of shows are losing guys like that because they're narrowing it down so much that it's killing guys that come in. Like, I went to 3 or 4 straight off the bat after I bought that little 65, and I never won a thing.
Right.
And, it's not the best-looking car out there, but I shouldn't be in the same category competing against a brand-new Mustang with one that is 56, 57 years old. That's just
exactly.
That's a no-brainer. My car's old. It's going to have dents and dings and bad spots in it. This guy just rolled it off Bill Collins' lot.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy.
And we heard a lot at the show this past weekend. It's like there were a lot of newer cars. They got awards, and it's like, in a lot of those local shows, a lot of it's what is in the eye of the judge. Where they have a real detailed judging sheet, or it's just like they judge on overall cleanliness or the looks and then what the judge likes sometimes. And that's part of it. You got to know that going in, because if you expect to go to a show and get a trophy or an award of some type every time you go to a show, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. All these shows are raising money for a charity of some type. So, $20 typical. It's like, so we go to support that club, to help support that charity, just like yours. It's like that's what people do. They get an award, great. They're happy. But it's all about, we go to as many events as we can, our club does, to help support all the local clubs, because they're all doing the same thing. They got a charity they're trying to support, raise money for, so it's like we help them out by being there.
Well, also helping other participants as well. I remember my first car show, and everyone was so excited to see me there because as a younger person, they really wanted to see more and more of those people my age starting to participate. And they were all very eager to provide advice and like, oh, you should look at this, you should look at that. This is a great resource. I know someone who does this. And it is a community that they want to help each other.
Yeah, the car community is unique. I mean, when you go to a car show, everybody's car family.
Yeah.
Don't care what kind of car they're driving or their age. You're in the car family at that point, and they'll do anything to help you.
Yep.
Well, this poses a good question for me, and I really would like to hear from everybody on it, is what is going to be more attractive towards getting younger guys into this? Because it's kind of like you said when you were talking to me on the phone the other day, it's a lot more older guys than it is the young guys. What do we got to do to start bringing in the guys our age to do this kind of stuff? Because, if we don't, the car shows are probably going to die.
Yeah, and that's a challenge I think every club has, and we've talked about it as our club, is like, how do we attract the younger members? Because the younger ones typically like the newer cars. It's got all the technology and everything with it, and it's a more modern look. a young guy like you may want to go out and search for a 65 Mustang or a 62 Corvette or something to want to buy and restore and show it. So, how can we attract those young people there? And somebody asked me one time, what do I get for my $24 annual dues to your club? I was like, well, I said right off the bat, I said, you get hundreds of years of experience from people who've been doing this since they were your age. And we've got people that's been in our club since it was founded back in the 80s, and they're still there. And it's like, so you get all that knowledge and experience from those people, and they'll help you do anything you want. If you need know how to help restore a car, go talk to this guy. He can point you to the right people. Hey, where can I get my car worked on? Who's good with the old Mustangs or who's good with the newer ones? We've got people that we work with that point you in the right direction. And that's what it's all about. It's not about the $24. It's about the friendship, the camaraderie, and the years and vast knowledge you get from people in the club that share to everybody. And to me, that's worth 10 times what you pay for the club membership.
Well, also another side of just the younger guys leaning towards the newer cars, I feel like a lot of it is like you can find the especially with Mustangs specifically, the early 2000s Mustangs you can find for, $1,000, $2,000. They still have a V8. There's still, disc brakes, plenty of manuals out there, all that. But then you look at the 65 coupes or a 67, something like that. I mean, for one that is chopped up into pieces is still several $1,000s and then you got to have another 20 to restore it. So I feel like a decent bit of it's honestly is some of the newer cars, not necessarily the brand new ones, but just the ones that are more 5-10 years old, kind of gently used. They're just a lot more obtainable for people that are younger and maybe in high school or something, just working a part-time job on the side, something like that. They find a little the Miatas and stuff like that.
Yep.
A lot of it is price. I mean, everything's gotten so much more expensive in general, and the car scene especially has seen drastic changes the past few years as far as what the general price is for a car. And also, it might come down to what cars they saw when they were growing up, because I know a lot of people who really like the Camaros, and it's solely from the fact that the Transformers movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And as a kid, they were sitting there watching that, and they thought that scene was so cool, and now that car is forever imprinted in their head as, oh my gosh, that's such a cool car.
Yeah, and the Bullet Mustang got its place in history with the Steve McQueen movie,
Yep.
So it's like that brand of Mustang, well, that's part of Mustang's history.
Yeah, and then you got Gone in 60 Seconds,
Yeah.
the Eleanor
Yeah,
car.
Eleanor,
There's so
that's-
many of those,
Yep.
Well, I think that's a big thing with our generation is it's what you see in pop culture. You're looking for this car it's just like John Wick's car. Everybody knows that's the reason why he killed everybody was over the dog in the car.
Yep.
You don't steal the guy's car, you don't kill the dog. But, I mean, that's where a lot of our generation gets things. But at the same time, we've also, as car show people that run it, we need to become more open to, instead of being just the American market or just Ford, just Dodge, whatever, we need to start opening our horizons towards maybe the JDM market, because there are a lot of guys that are going towards that. He's got a 3000 GT Mitsubishi that is a nice little car. I mean, we need to be more open to that, because you don't see a lot of those at car shows. You see those more at the events that are cars and coffees that are real lax, and it's just hanging out and chatting and stuff like that.
Cruise-ins and things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it also might be the age of it, too. It's a 92. Those cars might not be nostalgic for a lot of the older crowd, but for some of the slightly younger, that could be more of a car from their age. And also, I think they're really cool because they have all that old tech that you can see some inspirations that get taken in the future, and they have some old things in them still, but I have a it's an LCD display for the air conditioning. And that's just a super cool old piece of tech, and it's great that it still works, and it's a very valued part of that car, because people think, oh, that's so cool. I mean, you don't see that on these cars. And those odd little intricacies of these specific cars is fun to a lot of people.
Not to mention the pop-up headlights, man. You can't go wrong with pop-up headlights.
Yes, if my Corvette still had its original front bumper, it would also have the pop-ups, and then have 3 cars with pop-ups.
We can fix that,
Did you ever work on those pop-up headlights?
We messed with some on the Mitsubishi a little bit. Those are kind of fun, yeah.
They work great because they're electric motor.
Yeah, they're not the vacuum tubes.
My Corvette, it is missing its pop-ups right now. We're might work on that, might not. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that still, but it would have had the pop-up. With
The old T-Birds. The old T-Birds had the vacuum ones, and it was like a big tomato juice can, literally. And it was like, really? It's like, I can go in the house and get me a new vacuum container today and hook up the hoses and I'll be good. So,
Well, and gosh, that's just another thing about that. I'm not trying to date you on this, but like
Go ahead.
probably the big foreign car for you all was probably like the Datsun and the 300 and stuff like that. That was the big car, at least for like, I know my dad's generation, because that's the one he can remember the most being popular.
yeah. 240Z.
Yep.
Probably in my
Yep.
time was probably the most iconic foreign car, that the Datsun 240Z. It came on the scene. It was a sleek little car, and that was one of the first foreign cars I remember ever seeing or dealing with was one of those.
They still have a cult following. People still love the look of those cars. And it's the same thing with the Mustangs, but they're different crowds. You don't see interact very often, which is unfortunate
I
because
think
they're still
part
car
of the
guys.
reason, I was gonna say, I think part of the reason why I like the JDM style of cars most is just because they're not as bulky, I guess. Like most of them are really tiny cars. You see like the like I said, the Miatas earlier, stuff like that. I mean, they're all just like 4-wheel disc brakes, rear-wheel drive, manuals, like the MGs and stuff like that. They all just had a focus on, I guess, like drivability instead of just straight line power.
I think that was part of the big reason why they got popular in the 70s, because there was the fuel crisis, and most of these big 3 dealers and all the big American companies were building land barges of cars. I mean, I don't mean to say it in a bad way, but I mean, the Cadillac was a boat for a reason. I mean, it was just huge. But then all of a sudden we go to where people can't get maybe but a couple gallons of gas. Well, you don't need a big block car that just takes and goes around the corner and you burn 3 gallons. You need something that's like the Mustang too, that came out for a while, even though that was a sin. But and maybe that's me. I'm being bad to the Mustang guys on that one. But man, that car's just, I know it was to do what it could to make sure that Ford got through it all, but it was wow.
It was 5 interesting years.
Yes, it
Yeah, it was
was.
5 interesting years.
Well, one question I got for you before we kind of close this all down is I know you were the president for Derby City Mustang Club. Do you all have any shows coming up, anything like Cruise In or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. We have our big show, Ford Fest, every October. It's the second week in October. This year it's October 14th. We usually have a pony trail. That's where we just go on a day cruise on Friday before the show. And we usually stop somewhere and eat lunch and then all drive back. But it's a beautiful show. We usually have 200-plus cars. And our show benefits 3 charities that are close to our heart. Our hosting dealership is Bill Collins Ford. So one of our big donations is to the Bill Collins Parkinson's Foundation that Mr. Collins had. And then we also give to Active Heroes and the Crusade for Children. So it's 3 local charities. And everything we raise from the show, that money goes straight to those charities. So we get, like I said, we get 200-plus cars. We see you guys there from Fall City all the time.
Yep.
And a lot of our other sister clubs from Cincinnati and Indy and everywhere. So it's great to see people come in and support us. So, and it's an open show. So bring your car out.
Yep.
And
Porch might be there.
we'd love to have you.
Well, I will attest for him on that. I've been to it for about the last 4 or 5 years, and I've enjoyed every year I've went. So I'm looking forward to being out there this year. And for anybody listening, come and visit us. We'd love to see you while we're out there and talk shop a little bit.
Absolutely.
But thanks everybody for listening. Make sure to check us out and give us a like and share, and tell all your friends about us. This has been Kicking the Tires.